It's even getting worse, right? So now, Katie, so here's Kamala Harris again. There she is. She spoke at the Healthcare Justice Labor Day rally at the Kaiser Hospital, where workers got arrested demanding greedy multi-billion-dollar Kaiser bargain a new contract. Kamala Harris didn't say healthcare or Kaiser once. Turns out she's their top recipient. There she is, right? But if you look a little higher, you know who's taking even more money from Kaiser? Whose name is that? That's Elizabeth Warren. That's Elizabeth Warren, and that's how money changes everything. You know, Elizabeth Warren says money changes everything in Washington, and money runs everything in Washington. That's Elizabeth Warren. She says that. Now, a lot of people have been talking about this. I wanted to play this in front of you, Katie, and get your reaction. Here she is admitting that she's going to abandon her principle being money changes everything and money runs everything. She's going to go ahead and she's not going to take money in the primary, but she will in the general election.
Right.
And so let's listen. Here's what.
But I wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier that you don't believe in unilateral disarmament. So does this only apply in the primaries, or will you carry this over to the general election or any other election you'll have going forward?
So this is for primaries. Look, I do not believe in unilateral disarmament. We need to win. We need to win in 2020. And when we hit 2020 and
So this idea, we need to win, and I'm serious about winning, which is why I'm going to compromise myself and take cash from the people who I'm supposed to be regulating. I'm going to get in bed with those people. That's the opposite of what a leader actually says. That's bullshit, what she's saying. Would you agree, Katie?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that it's funny. It's like I'm glad that people are paying lip service in a way to more progressive things. It's frustrating because you don't want them to just be talking the talk without walking the walk. But I'm glad people are kind of shifting the Overton window to the left. But we need to make sure that we then expose when they're not following through on that stuff, right? And the thing with Warren is that there are two things. One of them is, like you said, you need to be principled, not just during the primary, but during the general. And the other thing is, like, I just don't think that I like a lot of things about her, but I don't think she has great political instincts. And I think we saw that with the DNA test. And I just saw this week that she contributed to a cookbook called Pow Wow Chow, which is a Native American cookbook. Yeah. So I'm just like, I am really worried that Trump will I'm worried she won't do well in a debate against Trump. And people will say to me, that's sexist, that's toxic. I mean, I have to say something. Last time there was like a lot of vicious gaslighting of critics of Hillary Clinton. But this time there's something even weirder, which is like in 2016, any criticism of Hillary Clinton was sexist. This time it's like any criticism of Warren is mean and vicious and toxic. Like I was on Twitter and I said that someone was asking the difference between her and Sanders. And I said, well, she believes in the meritocracy. Sanders is the only, and I don't even think Tulsi talks about this that much either, even though I like a lot of her foreign policy stuff. Sanders is the only one on the stage who really rejects the values of meritocracy, which is a good thing because we should reject it because it's a libertarian thing that's dressed up as social democracy. And people were like, how dare you? Look at these vicious attacks. I really hope Bernie Sanders condemns them. So that's a fun thing this time around. Yeah.
Well, Steph, what do you think about what she just said? Let me play a little bit more.
We're in a race against Donald Trump when we're in a race for control of the Senate and control of the House and in control of the State House.
Hey, we're always in a race for control of everything.
Right.
Well, it's like, hey, I'm all for not taking corporate cash, but it's super serious. We're in a race right now for the Senate and the State House.
Right.
We always are. So what's
right? Next time I run and we're not in a race for anything.
Yeah.
When the election system stops.
Yes, when we're not.
When electoral politics takes a pause, right?
When we're having an election and it's not actually for the Senate or the House or state houses or the presidency, that's when we cannot take corporate money. But right now, it's for a real thing. So we have to take corporate money and do that thing that gave us Donald Trump in the first place, us getting in bed with corporations, the military-industrial complex, Wall Street, big oil, and big pharma and insurance. That's exactly what led us to Donald Trump. And she's prescribing the exact same thing, and she's calling it serious because we gotta win. Hey, you outspent Donald Trump 2-1 last time, and you lost to him.
In the governor's mansions, in all of those, the Republicans are going to be bringing a lot of money, a lot of power, a lot of dark money, a lot of super PACs, all to the fight. We play by the same rules. And in that one, I say we got to be all in.
So I'm going to throw it to my panel. I would love to get your opinion on what on that. We have to be all in, meaning all in is when you put all of your own money and you're risking everything in gambling. When you say when she says all in, that's not what she means. What she means is I'm not risking anything. I'm taking money from the exact same people who I'm supposed to be regulating and fighting against. And it changes everything. And she's pretending like makes prudent and she's a grown-up. She's doing that. We've got to beat Donald Trump. Oh, isn't it great that we have Donald Trump so you can now continue the same corrupt manner that you've always been doing, taking corporate cash and turning your back on people? Well, you know what Bernie Sanders says? You can't change a corrupt system by taking its money. That's what Bernie Sanders says. You can't change a corrupt system by taking its money. Let me throw it to my panel.
I'm inspired and I want to have a beer with her.
Wait a minute.
No, it's a great message. Like, okay, plebs, I get it. You don't want corporate money in the primary, so I'll play by your rules then. But in the general, I'm just going to do Washington as usual because that's a winning strategy. People aren't fed up with the status quo at all.
What people want to fight Trump with is someone who's doing exactly what Trump is doing.
That's right.
He bet with the same people, promising favors to the same donor class. People are tired of the donor class running things, and nobody knows it better than Elizabeth Warren, and she doesn't give a shit. That's what I think. What do you think, Steph?
You know, when I think of Elizabeth, well, first off, my mind was blown about the Pow Wow Chow. Okay, I can't believe that she would participate in something like that. I thought it was a bunch of baloney. It's true. She wrote for it.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of, Jimmy, you know, when I was looking at the list of the donations that they made, like it was $13,000 to Kamala and $15,000. That's how low, that's how cheap their compromise is.
Yes.
And that's depressing to me. And so nothing that, like you were saying, we had this conversation earlier about, you're supposed to be able to accuse Trump of being a liar. We have all these examples of him lying and lying and lying. And so why can't we have a candidate that is virtuous, who's not going to be lying and flip-flopping on all the issues all the time?
You mean like
and that she's going to accept big money so we can beat him. I'm thinking, why don't we start with big issues that will win support?
Nice. How about we go all in on issues? How about we go all in on Medicare for all? How about we go all in on ending the wars? How about we go all in on free college? How about we go all in on a living wage? How about we go all in on breaking up the banks and banning fracking? How about we go all in on a Green New Deal? That's what's going to win you an election. You know what's going to lose you an election? Pretending you're better than Donald Trump when you're in bed with the exact same people. That's what's going to lose you the election, because people know that you fast-tracked Donald Trump's judges. People know you gave him $80 billion more for the military, a guy you say is a traitor to our country, but you're going to let him go bomb other countries, and you get him $80 billion. People know that Elizabeth Warren is duplicitous and is not being straight. And you know why? Because Donald Trump, a guy like Donald Trump, can pressure her into humiliating herself like this.
I am not a person of color. I am not a citizen of a tribe.
Did you see that, Katie?
Yeah. Do you know that image of Bernie Sanders running for a train? Have
Yes.
you seen that? It's
Yes.
like a popular, I think that's when he got a text from someone telling him that Warren was going to get a DNA test. And that was him trying to warn her not to do it. Because he's a real, he likes, he ran in 2016 only after he suggested she run, and she said no.
Right. Right.
So, people will also try to pretend that he doesn't like, and they're different. The big difference between them is that she thinks tweaks need to be made in the system so it's fairer. And he thinks we just need a different system. And that doesn't mean pie in the sky. That's not utopian. People love to say that, like Ezra Klein called his healthcare plan like puppies and rainbows or something. It sounds good to me, personally.
Yeah.
And puppies are real. Puppies and rainbows are real. So great. They're real and they're great. Good analogy. But, he's not trying to blow things up. It's not impossible. And one of the most frustrating things and one of the things we needed to learn and we still need to learn from 2016 is the idea that there are two types of arguments against real, bold, progressive policies and politics. One is that it's not, there are two types of styles of subgenres of this argument. The argument is that you just can't do it. It's not practical. It's a great idea, but it's not possible. Now, some people make that argument cynically because they know that it is possible and they don't like that, right? It's precisely because it's doable that they say it's not. Then there are people who are up for grabs, I would say, who you hear that so many times from the media that you start actually believing it. It just becomes conventional wisdom. You hear it from media and you hear it from politicians. So that's why shows like yours and shows that other people have that push back on this are so important, because we need to change what people think of as the normal, right? The norm or the possible or the achievable. And that really is the most exciting thing. Like Naomi Klein said this, and we know it's scary because she goes, I knew our ideas were right, but I didn't know they were so popular and possible.
Right.
And now that they are, we have this big obligation. It's very scary. And of course, this is also an interesting time because it exposes people who we thought would come along with us to the left, right? Like we thought that once there is a viable candidate who is making these policies, and the thing is we also have to make sure people know that they were always popular. They just aren't popular among the elites.
That's right.
So they're
right.
not.
So
right?
when you say they're not popular, you mean the progressive ideas, the things I just laid out. All those things are actually very popular. Even single payer health care is more popular. Right. It's more popular with Trump voters than it is with the Democratic leadership.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so, Trump voters are to the left of the
Pelosi,
DLC.
Than the DLC, Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer.
Can I add something really quickly? I just want to add that. So Elizabeth Warren at 47 decided not to be a conservative any longer, right?
Right.
So she has only walked away from being conservative for 23 years.
Right.
So all of us here have had more of a progressive ideology twice as long as she has.
I didn't vote for Reagan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Additionally, she's already said that she is a capitalist to the bone.
To the bone.
Right.
And she clapped.
She needs to go to an orthopedist.
Yeah.
So she's letting us know exactly who she is. Similarly to when Barack Obama said that he is, what did he say, Jimmy? That he's a
moderate Republican.
Moderate Republican.
He said I'm a moderate Republican.
So they're letting you know exactly who they are.
And he said that later. So, she's telling us ahead of time. We should take notes now.
Yes.
Yeah, you never saw that video? I play it on my show all the time, Katie, where Barack Obama was being asked if he's a socialist, and he said, no, if you look at my policies, they would be considered moderate Republican if this was the 80s. And I'm
I think I blocked it out.
The truth of the matter is that my policies are so mainstream that, if I had said the same policies that I have back in the 1980s, I'd be considered a moderate Republican.
One of the biggest differences, I think, between people, again, they ask what's the difference between Warren and Sanders. And again, besides the electability, which is real, and people, I think, need to recognize how important this is. And if everything's at stake and we can't take any risks and we need to make sure we defeat Trump, then go with the person who does better against him in the polls, first of all, right? And also, one of the biggest areas that the president has power in is in foreign policy. And there's a big difference there. I mean, Sanders really does get how destructive foreign policy has been and how craven it's been. And Warren, I think, really, again, she wants to kind of pull it back a little bit. But she doesn't have a real problem with our imperial, the war machine. She kind of wants to rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, no, she wants.
And that's where the president has a lot of unilateral power.
Yeah, she just wants to make it greener. She's not really upset with our imperialism. She just wants to bomb brown people in a green way.
More
Right?
khakis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can see my screen, Katie, it's this is from Time Magazine. This was back 2 years ago. It says Elizabeth Warren goes to bat for medical device industry. So that was her getting the medical device industry. There was going to be a tax, an Obamacare tax on them to help fund Obamacare, and she wanted to get rid of it. She went to bat for them. That's Time Magazine. That's not Jimmy Dore saying it.
Right.
And just real quick, here's another one. Elizabeth Warren attends Martha's Vineyard dinner hosted by big bank executive. The Democrats' Wolf of Wall Street, Robert Wolf, hosts Wall Street critic Warren. So I'll do another video about that tomorrow. But she wags her fingers, at bankers, but she never recommends prosecution for them. And in fact, one of the quotes from this article was the guy, the Wolf of Wall Street guy, says, I think Senator Warren's views are more pragmatic. I think she's very different in a conversation than she is on the stump. Oh, my God. Sounds like she has a private position and a public position. Does it not, Ron?
Right.
That's what that sounds like. That's exactly what that sounds like.
I
Yeah.
wonder if she made a speech that night that they'll ever release to the public.
I wonder.
Yeah, right? I wonder if it started with, hey, sorry about that Wells Fargo thing. The cameras were on.
So when she... Go ahead.
By the way, I thought that said medieval device. I'm not kidding. When it said she went to bat for medical device, I thought it said medieval. Any glasses, yeah.
So anyway, I'm just telling you, this person is going to have this person right here will have a hard time beating Trump.
I am not a person of color. I am not a citizen of a tribe.
That person is going to have a hard time beating Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Really hard
And
time.
I think something that people don't get is they'll say, but wait, she won't have a hard time beating Trump because of her Native American stuff. Trump is racist. Yeah, we know that. Of course he's racist. The thing is, Trump has this get out of jail free card where he doesn't pretend to be morally consistent or have a moral high ground. So he's not held to the same standards. And that's why, again, Sanders will do very well against him because Sanders, you have his critics complaining, and this is mind-boggling to me. They're like, he has the same message. Like, come on, we need a new message. Like, what world do you live in where these things are no longer necessary to talk about? Oh, you live in a world with universal health care? Sorry, this is boring you. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll try to jazz it up a little bit. But, he's consistent, right? And his critics will call him stubborn for that or like played out, which is so ridiculous. But it will be much harder for Trump to get under his skin.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt about it, because there isn't an opening for him to get under his skin.
Exactly.
What's he going to do? Make fun of him because he owns 2 coats?
Yeah, exactly. Because he has a New York accent.
Because he has a New York
'cause
accent, owns 2 coats, because he's been able to amass 3 modest homes in his almost 80 years of life.
He goes on
I know.
vacation in one of them.
I think he goes on vacation in one of them.
Yeah. By the way, just so everyone knows, I know you guys know this, but it is unbelievable that people talk about owning 3 homes. Literally every single senator, by definition, has to own at least 2.
Right. Because you have to have a
Because
place
they live-
in D.C.
Yeah.
and you have a place back in your home state. So you have to have
Yeah.
2 residences right off the bat. Bernie
Right,
has
exactly.
Bernie has 3, and people are shitting themselves.
Yeah. Because he has a lot of grandkids. I can't even believe we're defending this because it's such a non-argument. And as people probably know, that amazing image of him holding 2 houses and having one house coming out of his head, that Politico did in their totally anti-Semitic headline, which was like Bernie Sanders is cheap but not poor. And then they had him standing in front of a tree of money.
Yes.
Like the leaves were bills.
Yes.
You can't make it up.
If it's weird, I didn't hear Chuck Schumer screaming about that as being anti-Semitic. I didn't hear.
Right, exactly.
I didn't hear APEC screaming that was anti-Semitic, or David Frum, or Jake Tapper. I didn't hear anybody screaming that was anti-Semitic, even though it was unbelievably anti-Semitic.
Yeah. Yeah. Where was I thought these people care a lot about tropes. Don't they care about anti-Semitic tropes?
That's right.
Where is Jonathan Chait?
And so
the trope watcher.
And don't think Trump's voters don't see the complete hypocrisy of the left on things like that. They do. That's why when you call Trump racist, they brush it right off, because they can point back at you a million examples of just like when they say, "Oh, Trump is being mean to immigrants," or "He's horrible," and Yeah, they know that Barack Obama was a deporter in chief. They know Barack Obama built those cages. They know Hillary Clinton voted and advocated for a border wall. They know all this. They know that
And
it was.
Hillary Clinton said we had to send kids back to send a message.
That's right.
Anyone who wasn't up in arms about that and then wants to tell me also we're dealing a part of this immigration that we're seeing, which by the way, it's not a crisis. We have to remind people of this, right? This is a talking point that Trump really uses because it's not at an all-time high. But there is, of course, a lot of despair because people are fleeing violence that the United States created, violence and destabilization.
That's correct.
In part through supporting or not doing anything about the coup in Honduras.
Correct. That's correct. You're 100% right. So there's a lot more, Katie, about her that we're going to talk about tomorrow, and we're going to do some more in our Seattle show this weekend. And I want to say thanks again for being on our show in New York, and we're actually trying to edit together a compilation reel from that night because you were so funny, and I was like, well, I want people to see how funny Katie Helper was that night, so we're putting together something, and we'll drop it pretty soon.
Awesome.
Okay, well, it looks like this is underneath your name, but it's not. It's actually underneath. That's so funny. It's so funny.
How will you overcome concerns
your
about your
honesty.
And my support of medieval devices.
Everybody check out Useful Idiots. It's the new podcast by the Rolling Stone. Katie Helper is one of the hosts, and also it's Matt Taibbi, so it's a great show. And if you check it out this week, I'm on that show. So thank you very much, Katie, for being our guest, and we'll get back to you soon.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Hey everybody, we're doing a live show every Sunday in October in Hollywood, California at the Sycamore Tavern. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for tickets and become a patron. We give you hours of bonus material every month. Become a premium member. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com and sign up. Thanks for your support.